What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how quarterbacks can avoid getting arm pain, okay? So we're going to be talking about what's going to help you guys prevent shoulder pain, elbow pain, and just pain overall in your arm with some of the common mechanical flaws that you see in young quarterbacks that put a ton of stress on their arms. So I hope this video helps you guys out. But also, fellas, if you're a quarterback and you want to get better throwing mechanics, you want to improve your arm strength, you want to improve your footwork, your off-platform throws, check out that very first link in the description below, fellas. We are traveling out to 6 different states across the country this offseason for 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camps. So we're going to be coming out to Columbus, Ohio, then Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys are local to one of those states and would like to get some work in with us for 2 whole days in a limited small group number fashion, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to help you guys out and love to help your skills improve this year. Let's get started with this video. So first thing that puts a lot of stress on quarterbacks' arms is improper sequence, okay? So when you guys throw, obviously, like everybody loves to talk about, getting your legs involved with the throw, rotating at your hips. I think everybody can agree, if you know anything about playing the quarterback position, is it's not about your arm. It's not about how strong your arm is, how strong your shoulder is. It's all about your lower half that is going to give you power and going to give you velocity and give you torque on the ball, but also take stress off of that elbow, because no quarterback can throw the ball with solely their upper half. You look at NFL guys, right? They're playing football during the season. 6 days out of the week, they're probably throwing 100+ throws. Your arm would fall off if you were solely using your arm. You physically would not be able to throw. So you have to get your lower half involved. Now, a lot of quarterbacks think they're getting their lower half involved, but in fact, they're not. So it all comes down to the throwing sequence. So the throwing sequence, you want it to be front stride hits the ground, then your hips go through, then your shoulders go through, and then the ball slightly trails behind. Now, we're showing this example of a high school quarterback throwing, and this is kind of the incorrect way of doing it. And then we're going to show an example of Kyler Murray doing the exact same throw with the correct type of form. So the thing about getting your hips to rotate through, on this specific throw, this quarterback, you see how his shoulders are leading his hips. This back foot is trailing behind. His back hip is trailing the elbow. That puts a ton of stress on this shoulder and a ton of stress on this elbow. Now, why does he do that? What exactly causes that? So when you guys go to throw, to be able to get your hips to rotate through, it is all about weight transfer. It is all about taking that weight from that back leg and shifting it to the front leg, being able to almost sit there and you want to shift through. So when you follow through, you can't even look down and see your toe. Now, the issue that a lot of quarterbacks have is exactly this. They don't have enough weight on their back leg to transfer through. So when you're dropping back and this is a rhythm, this is a timing 10-yard speed out. He's taking 3 steps and throwing, right? He's going 1, 2, 3. When you plant off of that 3rd step, you got to have about 70 to 75% of your weight loaded on that back leg. So you can take that 70, 75, transfer it, not necessarily push off the foot, but transfer the weight from that quad to the front foot, and that is what allows your hips to go through. You could try it right now. If you stand up and you have all your weight on your front foot, and you're just standing there, all your weight's on your front foot, try to rotate with your hips. You physically can't do that. Your front hip's gonna lock out. Now try to shift and have your weight on the back leg and transfer the weight through and see how much easier it is to rotate through with your hips. That is the goal, fellas, because that weight shift, you taking that weight and transferring it to the front foot, is what gets your hips involved. Now, when he drops back, that weight is not far enough back. So he's essentially already transferred a lot of weight on this crossover step. And this is a ton of quarterbacks. A ton of quarterbacks love to sit in the pocket and they have all their weight on their front foot. And when you have all that weight on your front foot and no weight on your back foot, because maybe your knee is caved inward like this, and we're going to talk about that. But when your weight is shifted forward, you have nothing to transfer. So when you go to throw, it's like your weight's already transferred. Your throwing sequence is off. The timing of everything is off, and your shoulders are going to lead your hips, and the back leg is going to trail behind, solely because he just does not have enough weight going back. His weight is shifted forward, so his hip is already essentially transferred through. So now it's just an all upper body throw. So what he needs to do is think, what I tell my quarterbacks is you want to try to get your knee to your pinky toe. You never want to have your knee caved inward because you physically can't get enough weight on your back leg. You want to have that knee to the pinky toe, your back foot should be almost like underneath your back shoulder. You don't want to be super narrow, but you want to have that back foot underneath that back shoulder, knee to pinky toe. So when you transfer, it makes it that much easier to get your hips through, but also you're in a good pre-throw position to where you're in a position to actually transfer the weight. So I'm going to play this thing full speed one more time. And this is very common on quarterbacks off of their third step on a drop. But you see, the ball did not have enough velocity that we need on a speed out like this. So now let's look at this throw here from Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray's taking a rhythm 3 and throwing. And look at his third step, drive. And you see how much more velocity that ball has off of his hands. Now, watch where he is on his third step. So it's the same type of throw, 1, 2, 3. But you see how he is loaded on this back leg. His back leg is not caved inward. That back foot is underneath his back shoulder. Now, again, I think we both can agree on both of these throws. Kyler Murray's obviously had a lot more twitch. There was a lot more quickness to it because that quickness of the arm, that quickness of his release, all comes from that weight transfer and that hip drive. That is what activates the throw. Now, again, you look at his back leg, knee to pinky toe. Is he there? Yes. Is the back foot underneath his frame? Yes. So now he's in a position to where he could transfer his weight, right? The weight is shifted back. So that weight that he has shifted back right now, he can do what? He can transfer it through. And when you have that weight shifted back and you transfer through, that takes all the stress off of that elbow. That means that your hips are going through before the shoulders go through. And that is what will get you more consistent and take the pressure off of your arm. Okay, so I know in the last clip we talked a lot about, hey, it's going to limit your velocity. You're not going to have any pop on it. But when and that velocity is because you're throwing only with your arm. How quarterbacks get that zip, how quarterbacks get that pop on the ball is by throwing with their lower half and hips. But when you're throwing with your upper body, you're not going to have as much power and it's going to put pressure on your arm. So Kyler Murray does a great job. Again, transfers his weight and look what comes through before that ball. His hip is coming through before that ball, right there. That is the position that I'm talking about. It was front stride, then it was hips, then it was shoulders, and the football is trailing behind. That is what takes pressure off the shoulder, the rotator cuff, and the elbow. If you can consistently get to that spot, fellas, because of where your weight is, because of where your back foot is, because that knee is to the pinky toe, that will, trust me, fellas, that will take so much pressure off your arm, and you'll be way more consistent and be able to throw for longer periods of time. Now, let's play this thing again full speed. Then we're going to look at 2 more clips of a quarterback having a too wide of a base and how that can put pressure on the arm. And then again, we're going to look at a positive example of Kyler Murray doing this as well. So this quarterback's going through progressions or mimicking like he's going through progressions, but he has an extremely wide base. So this is the big problem that you see with a lot of QBs today, right? Now look, naturally when that base is wide, look where his back foot is. Very far outside his frame. So kind of similar things we were talking about in the first example. What happens? He's got way too much weight on his front side. Again, back foot is way outside his frame, so where is his knee? His knee is caved inward. You want to be, back foot should probably be located here. Knee should be caved, if anywhere, outward, and his weight should be shifted back. Because him transferring that weight through is what will get his hips involved. But when your base is too wide like so, what ends up going to happening is you physically cannot rotate at your hips. You could try it right now. Stand up, have your feet super wide, and try to rotate. Physically cannot do it at your hips. You just can't do it. Your hips are going to lock out. And that's what this quarterback does, which is what puts stress on the elbow and is what puts stress on the shoulder. So when he goes to throw, he tries to transfer that weight, but that extension is something you never want to have right there. You want to be driving that knee through. You want to be getting the front hip to open up. But when your base is too wide and this extends, look what ends up happening. Back leg trails behind. You see how his hip caves right there? It kind of caves inward. That leg extends out, and look what ends up coming through first. His shoulders end up coming through way before the hips go. The hips hardly even rotated, and that is where the pressure on the elbow and that is where the pressure on the shoulder comes from. When your base is too wide and you can't get your hips to rotate through, that is an all-arm throw, and you see the ball kind of doesn't have as much velocity as we could have, right? It's not a bad ball, but it needs to have more velocity, and that is not something that we could do on a consistent basis. This is a type of thing that's going to make you guys limited in how many throws you could do. It's going to put a lot of stress on your elbow, a lot of stress on your shoulder. Like there was a quarterback that I trained, and before he kind of developed a little bit bad habits, playing through youth ball and whatever, and his base was very wide, right? And so he actually had a lot of elbow problems, and he hurt I think he broke the growth plate that was in his elbow. right? And so when you shatter that growth plate, like that's a serious injury for a young quarterback. And it was solely because of this problem. His base was too wide, and he was trying to use his hips. He was trying to rotate with his hips because he's heard that his whole life. Hey, rotate with your hips, rotate with your hips. But how do I actually do that? How do I actually get my front hip to open up, actually get my hips involved? And it's from having that base and having that back leg under your frame. Knee to pinky toe, really sit on it, and that weight transfer will get your hips to go. But you being in a wide base, like a lot of people think that the wide base, and again, the quarterback position has evolved because before this was like the status quo. Wide base, front foot's going to get down faster. And that's true, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee hip rotation. That front foot, yeah, it's getting down fast, but when that leg extends, this leg locks out, there's no hip rotation, puts a ton of stress right here and a ton of stress right here. So I'm going to play this full speed, and then we're going to look at a clip from Kyler Murray that I think will really clear this up for you guys. So again, going through progressions, make sure, fellas, the back leg is under your frame. So now we're going to be looking at Kyler Murray throw like a deep dig, a deep post on an absolute rope, and he hitches, but I want you to see where his back foot lands on this hitch. So again, fellas, the taking pressure off the shoulder, taking pressure off the elbow is solely predicated on that lower half and with your hips. So he goes to hitch up, back leg gets to a great spot, and he absolutely rips that thing over the middle, right? So let's talk about it. So he hits the top of his drop when he hitches up. Look, he's got weight on the front side because he's planning off the back leg, but when he hitches, where does that weight go? Shifts back. Look where his knee is. Knee is to pinky toe. Weight is shifted back. Now, guess what he's going to do? He's going to transfer, shifting off of that back quad. Watch his hips. Do you see a cave with his hips? You don't really say a cave with his hips at all. That front hip is able to come open. And again, hips are coming through before the ball. That is the key spot that we need to get to, fellas. That pre-throw position is everything. You having that back foot under your back shoulder, knee to pinky toe, and that weight transfer to get your hips to go before the shoulders as the front stride gets down, that is what takes the pressure off your arm, fellas. If we can do that, you'll be able to throw hundreds and hundreds of throws. Like I also train receivers, right? And there are days where I'm out there and I'll have, train probably maybe 12 to 15 receivers in a given day. And that's a lot of throws because I'm the one throwing, right? So I'm throwing however many catches to each receiver. Let's say it's 20. And my arm never gets tired because I do these kinds of things and I think about it, because it'd be physically impossible. I would tear everything in my arm if I was throwing just my arm, right? So you have to get in these habits of getting that back leg under your shoulder, transferring your weight, knee to pinky toe in that pre-throw position, just to get your lower half engaged in the throw is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of people say that, but a lot of people don't know the reason why and how to actually teach it. That is how you learn it, and that's what you have to emphasize to take that pressure off your arm mechanically. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. And I want to make a disclaimer too, like you can still hurt your arm by doing this. Sometimes it's from being overworked, but it won't be a serious injury. Everybody's arm gets tired, right? That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say you're going to be invincible, but it's going to take those serious injuries away where you hurt your rotator cuff, you hurt your elbow seriously. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Great job by Murray hitching up, knee to pinky toe, having that great weight transfer, and getting his hips involved with that throw. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comments section below. We always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out to one of our 6 off-season training camps in Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, or Los Angeles, California, we would absolutely love to have you out. So check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.